Welcome into Warchant TV. This is Ira Schoffel, managing editor of Warchant.com, and I'm joined today by a guy I've known for a long time, but haven't done a video interview with before. So this is a new experience for you, Coach. Coach Alan Rodemaker, who is a longtime high school football coach in the state of Georgia. But you guys probably are a little bit more concerned about his relationship to his son, Tate Rodemaker, who now is Florida State's starting quarterback, going into this week's game against Florida. Coach Rodemaker, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. So you guys were at the game on Saturday?
Oh, yeah.
And I know you're still coaching, so you don't make every game. Do you make every game?
You know, we missed Syracuse and Boston College.
Okay.
So we've been to every other game.
So that
Miami. Miami. Yeah. We played, 4A, 2A and 4A had to play on Saturday, so we missed the Miami game too. And now my wife was there with some friends, but we missed the Miami game. Well, I did.
So being the father of a backup quarterback, you don't know if you're ever going to see him play. I guess in that game you probably figured you would see him play because they're playing North Alabama, but not under those circumstances. I guess in those emotions, are you thinking more like a father or more like a coach? Kind of what are your emotions as you see Jordan? Obviously the biggest thing was concern for Jordan, but then once you realized Tate's going to go in there, kind of what was it like for you?
Yeah, I remember seeing Jordan's father at the tailgate and spoke to him like we always do right there at the Legacy Walk. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't immediately think Tate when Jordan went down. I knew it was Jordan that went down. I saw the run. I saw everything. And then we saw the replays. And then somewhere in there, it hit me that, Tate's going in. Right. I was just concerned. I think like everyone was concerned about Jordan to begin with. And so it was it's certainly bittersweet. And, we were walking back to Tate's that night and Jordan FaceTimed him. And this team is so close, especially those quarterbacks. They're all really close. And so I thought it was, it's a really neat thing. I hate Jordan's having to go through it, but I see where, and I'm not a social media guy for the most part, but I see where Jordan has sent some stuff out just telling people to relax, that Tate's going to be fine. And I just think this huge, those relationships are so huge.
So what was that? I know you mentioned that, and I think you mentioned in other interviews as well, that, Jordan reached out to Tate that night after the game. What could you get a sense for what that meant to Tate?
Oh, I think it means the world. Like I said, they're close and they pull for one another. And, I'll be honest with you. I'm sorry, I got phones going off.
No problem.
Well, that's funny. That's Rocco English, Gino's father. And I'll tell you a funny story that kind of brings up a story I was getting ready to tell you anyway. That's funny. Me and Gino or me and Rocco were in the stadium one game when it was raining. I can't remember a game it was raining. And Gino and Tate were such good buddies when Gino was here. And I told Rocco, and Rocco played quarterback. He was backup quarterback at Penn State back in the day. And I said, Rocco, let me be honest with you now. I have not told my son to be friends with your son because I don't think he should be friends with any guy he's competing with. And Gino said, or Rocco said, I told Gino the same thing. And so I've always felt that way. But these guys, and this is a different generation, but Jordan and Tate and Brock and AJ, when I cooked crawfish for a lot of the players a couple of years ago when Tate turned 21, AJ was there. It's not uncommon now, but it would have been uncommon in my day. We just didn't get along. We're competing. I don't like that guy. But these days, these quarterbacks are so close. And I think it's really, I'm certainly in a more mature relationship than we used to have.
It's funny you say that. I actually was talking to Tatum Bethune and Kalen DeLoach's dads for something else I'm doing. And they talked about Tatum Bethune's dad said and Tatum's dad played at FAMU and he said when Tatum transferred to Florida State from UCF, when they were driving up, he told him, now look, you might think that they're going to welcome you with open arms, but those other linebackers may not be real thrilled about you coming in there as a guy who had 100 tackles. But he said when they pulled up in the parking lot, Kalen was the one that greeted him in the parking lot, gave him a big hug, and just welcomed him in. So I guess to that point, it speaks to what you're talking about this team also. It seems like it's probably modern football, but also it's probably specifically a little bit about this team.
Well, it certainly is about this team. I didn't mean to underscore that. I mean, undervalue that, because I think it's Mike Norvell and this team, and then it's the new generation as well, probably.
Yeah. So, you've coached. Talk a little bit about. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your career, just to give the perspective of how long you've been around. I don't want to age you, Coach, and I know I look much older than you. But I reminded you of this. My first job covering high school football in South Georgia. You were actually the first person I interviewed back in the day in Thomasville when you were Thomasville High School on Coach Bobo's staff. How long have you been coaching? And just kind of give people an idea of your career.
Yeah, my first season was 1989 at North Greenville. It was a JUCO then, right after Prop 48. So we had some great players, and we went undefeated my first year coaching. And then, I wanted to stay in high school coaching. And so the next year I coached at Boiling Springs High School in South Carolina. And then after that, I was at Southeast Whitfield High School in Dalton, Georgia for a couple of years. I met a guy named Tim Marchman, went to work for him. And then, so I guess it was my fifth year in coaching. I met Coach Bobo, interviewed with him, and was hired at Thomasville High School. And I guess that's when we met. And, Bobo, I only worked 1 year for him. We played for the state championship. It was a special year to be in Thomasville because we drive 2 miles to the state championship as the visiting team. And then Charlie Ward wins the Heisman that same year. Yeah. It was a special time. 93 was a special year for South Georgia and Tallahassee. Then I left there. I was at Peach County for 4 or 5 years with Rodney Walker, and then Rodney left, and I became the head coach of Peach County for a couple of years. And then right around the time that Tate was born, April of that year, 2001, I guess, I got out of coaching because me and my wife wanted to stay home with our kids, and we had already had one son. Bo was my oldest. And so we chose to get out of coaching simply because I didn't know if we could afford, to have her stay at home and me being coaching. So I got out for 8 years, worked for my brother-in-law at a telecom company in Raleigh, North Carolina. And, after 8 years of that, for a lot of reasons, I got back into coaching at Burns High School with Bobby Bentley in Burns, South Carolina. And Bobby was a college roommate of mine. In fact, his wife was at the game this past Saturday because their son is the quarterback coach from North Alabama. So they were there, and that was pretty cool. And then, from there, I got on with Rance Gillespie at Valdosta High School, and Rance was the head coach. And Rance kind of followed me at Peach County. I followed him when he left Valdosta to go to Georgia Southern to be the offensive coordinator. I was at Valdosta for 6 years as an assistant, 4 years as head coach. And then, there's a couple more stops. I went to Colquitt County a couple years, a couple good seasons there as assistant coach. And then, I'm at Madison County, Georgia, just north of Athens now, and it's my second year there. So I'm kind of easing into retirement a little bit. And I tell people all the time, Tate was Alan Rodemaker's son until about his junior year, and I became Tate. But we're enjoying that. We love the Saturdays, and we're up here near my wife's family, and our daughter plays volleyball at Lenore Ryan. So this is a perfect spot for us. But we certainly enjoy watching our kids play ball, both in volleyball and coming to Tallahassee every Saturday.
Well, there's just a side thing. What year were you at Burns? What years?
2009. Marcus Lattimore. We had a great team.
Wow.
Played for the state championship. I've been part of some really good teams. We played for the state championship in 93. We played for it in 98 at Peach County. Played for it in 2009 in South Carolina. And then, of course, we won it in 2016 at Valdosta. But Marcus Lattimore, we had a dozen Power 5 kids on that team.
Yeah, that was he was something else. And Burns was loaded for sure. So coaching Tate in high school, as you guys said, you win state. Jaheim Bell was one of the players on that team as well. What was that experience like? Him being, I think Coach Norvell mentioned today, he was 7A player of the year. Just, I imagine, man, you as a coach, high school football coach, your son at quarterback and having that kind of team success. I mean, how magical was that time for you guys?
Well, I say all the time, Tate loved football in high school because his daddy was not coaching him. I was a defensive guy, and I never said a word to Tate and the offensive coordinator. In fact, the offensive coordinator has done a great job. He's now assistant at Georgia Tech, but Tate did an excellent job. Josh Crawford's his name, but Tate made me look good. Tate won a lot of football games for us. He was All-State as a junior, All-State as a senior, Player of the Year, his senior year. His first varsity start, he threw for 250 yards and 4 touchdowns his end of his sophomore year. So he's certainly, I've come to trust Tate just by watching him. And again, I've never, me and Tate have thrown a lot of footballs. I mean, we've thrown a lot over the years, and I was a high school quarterback, so I knew just enough to be dangerous. And I knew the guys. I tell you, he's never really had a quarterback coach that was not an employee of mine or a coordinator of mine, other than George Bobo. George Bobo has spent countless hours with Tate since Tate was 6 years old, throwing football with George, and George teaching him really how to throw. And then Rance Gillespie kind of took that and helped Tate when he was young as well. But he's had numerous guys that are great. In fact, I just got off an interview with a guy from Tampa that was asking about me and Billy Napier's relationship. But Billy's father really helped Tate as well in this camp that we went to, Mike Hodges quarterback receiver camp in Georgia we went to for 30 years. Well, I guess Tate went for about 10 or 12 years, but Bill Napier really taught Tate a lot as well. But George Bobo's the guy. And, we still stay with George every Saturday night after a game. We're in George's house. I got a little guest room in George's house. I stay with him every Saturday night. Whether he's there or not, I got a key, get in, and it's a pretty nice little relationship.
For people, I'm sure people could piece it together with the last name, but yeah, Mike Bobo's dad, right. George Bobo. And that's when Coach Bobo retired at Thomasville, was when Mike was going to be the starter up at Georgia, which is it's why y'all end up leaving Thomasville.
That's right. In fact, I followed the way George was head coach at Thomasville. Mike became the starter. The last year, the redshirt year of Mike was my first year at Thomasville. Mm-hmm. We had the banquet. George comes in, tells everybody, hey, I'm resigning. I'm going to North Georgia and watch Mike play. George was an assistant coach the rest of his career at multiple places watching Mike. And I've kind of done the same thing. I tell George all the time, he's my hero. I followed it. We had another good friend, Mark Loudermilk, whose son played at Central Florida, was a long snapper, and not a long snapper, he was a holder and a punter at Central Florida. And we've all taken steps back in our careers to go watch our kids. And I haven't regretted a minute of that. It's been a lot of fun. And hopefully there's 2 more years of that.
Yeah. So did Tate play all sports growing up, or was it mostly just football from the beginning?
Tate and his brother, because we played ball in the yard since they were knee-high to a duck. Tate and Bo both had great hand-eye coordination. And their mother's a great athlete. She was a college basketball player. So
is that where he gets the hops from?
Whatever he gets that's good came from mama, I can tell you that. Any bad things he gets, that's daddy. But Tate played basketball, was a really good basketball player. I don't think he played after his freshman or sophomore year in high school. But he ran track, ran the 400 meter, was a pole vaulter, believe it or not, until he became our starting quarterback. And I said, no more pole vaulting. But he never really – baseball was too slow for him. My other son played baseball, basketball. We played everything. Listen, in high school I played – back in the day, everybody did, but I played football, basketball, baseball, and track, and loved every minute of it. So my kids kind of took the same thing.
So when you were coaching him in high school, you're saying you kind of left him alone a little bit?
He got the wrath of me. I've run him and I've disciplined him and I've gotten on him and I've hollered at him and screamed at him, but I didn't coach him. So any of his success was not me. It was more Josh Crawford. I can tell you that. But I
gotcha.
No, I coached the defensive side of the ball, and I was heavy involved in special teams and defense, and I let the offense do the thing.
when he and to give people an idea again, like y'all are playing in front of like when you play a state championship game in Georgia. I mean, 10,000 people, 12,000 people. I mean,
Well,
it's
we
not
played it. We played in the Georgia Dome in 2016, and there was probably 25 or 30,000 there.
right.
But our home games at Bazemore Hyler Stadium, the home, you play Lowndes or Colquitt County, and you're warming up at 6:45, and there's 10,000 people in the stands.
Right.
So I mean, he's been in front of. I mean, he's played in front of a lot of people. I know it's not 80,000 or it's not the Swamp, but he's all. Listen, I came from a little AA high school. I never played in front of more than 500.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went to a college where the Citadel in Furman was our biggest game, and that may be 18,000. So I've never played in front of anybody compared to him, but I don't think crowds really bother him.
So were you at the Louisville game last year?
No, that was a Friday night game.
Oh, that's right.
And so we were playing, and I had a coach on the sideline that was kind of giving me score updates. And somewhere in that game, Ira, and I know we did a story on this, or I did it with somebody, but somewhere in that game, my assistant coach, one of our assistants said, hey, they're behind, but Tate's got an attempt. And I said, what? And that's all he told me, because I don't know if he didn't have good reception or whatever. So it took me another 10 minutes to figure out why he had an attempt. And the game ended, and I basically watched the game on my phone on the bus ride back. And then when we got back, I put it on we got a little 70-inch screen TV in my office. And I watched the last quarter or so in my office. And it was, even though we got beat that night, I had to be quiet, but it was a good moment.
Yeah, I bet. One of the things you told me about Tate, probably a couple of years ago, was, one of the things you were hoping that would come from him is just the confidence. And that was so much the thing with Jordan. I was talking to somebody about Jordan the other day, and they were like, wow, how did he really learn how to throw? And I said, man, I talked to his high school coach when he came to Florida State from Louisville, and that coach, it was Eric Kresser, and he could not say enough about Jordan's passing ability. But when Jordan got here, after going through what he went through at Louisville, and then his first year or two here, like he had lost his confidence. And Jordan has talked about that a lot. How much, as a guy who's coached a lot of football players, like how important is that piece just to being able to do anything?
It's everything. It's everything. I mean, and I don't think Tate ever lost confidence in himself. I think it's hard for guys when they go to college and they don't play immediately. They're not, everything they do is in practice. And it's hard when you're standing on the sidelines for year after year. And I know Tate got a chance his freshman year, but I don't know that did him any good.
That was,
to be honest with you. I mean,
that was ridiculous. But anyway,
his first series, and I'll tell you, that could have gone totally different, but it went well for Jordan. But he's sprinting out in your own end zone on the first series of the game, throwing to your left against Jacksonville State. And that was kind of like this week. You're supposed to beat them bad, and we're behind. And so I really think the leash was short on Tate that day. He ended up playing not bad after that pick six. But, Jordan came in, did a great job. And I think Jordan was certainly the answer. I'm not trying to say that it wasn't, but I think that really that hurt as far as confidence, naturally, like it would anybody. And then he didn't play a whole lot more meaningful downs until Louisville last year.
Right.
It's just hard being on the sidelines, I think, for quarterbacks. I mean, I was a high school quarterback. I never played it in college, but I know on the sidelines is not the same, and practice is not the same. And so Tate's gone through really 2.5 years before Louisville of nothing, really, at the collegiate level. And I just think for anybody that's going to be tough.
And but it's really kind of a testament to him, and Coach Norvell talked about it today. But just, you don't see a lot of guys stick around for 4 years. I mean, very few schools right now have a situation where the starting quarterback goes down, and they've got a guy who's been in the system for 4 years. it just doesn't happen anymore. So I mean, like I think it's a great story for Tate to be able to come through in that situation last Saturday. But also how difficult has it been to resist? When everybody else is hopping out. I know he was tight with Chubba when Chubba was here and Chubba left. Gino left. What's it been like for Tate to kind of keep fighting through?
Well, evidently it hadn't been hard. He's never brought up the word transfer.
Right.
I brought it up to him a few times because naturally, me being a high school coach in South Georgia, I know all these recruiters. They've been through our place recruiting Tates and Jaheim Bales and all the other guys. We signed a dozen kids or more a year at Valdosta. So I know all these guys. And so naturally I get phone calls and I get texts about what's Tate going to do every year.
Right.
And, I just stopped bringing it up to Tate because he's never been interested. He's always wanted to be the quarterback for Florida State. And I think he loves his teammates. He loves being there. He loves the school. He graduates in another month. But he's never brought it up. We've never even had more than a 10-second conversation about it. And, that's him. I wish I could say it was me. I wish it was different. I've been proud of him for that. I'll be honest with you. And the coaches that reach out to me, when I tell them, hey, he's not interested, they say, you know what they say? They say, good for him. And then they go get another one.
Right.
I just think it's bad. And I got enough knowledge. And me and Coach Norvell have talked about this when he came through our, Colquitt County recruiting. 60% of those guys that get in never find a place.
Right.
And so, but I hadn't shared any of that with Tate. I just think Tate has always wanted to be the quarterback for Florida State. So it's never really come up.
Could you talk about your relationship with Coach? So with Coach Napier, you mentioned it earlier with his father. So do you have much relationship with Billy also?
Billy, Billy, his father's a little older than me, and Billy was a little younger. I used to go there and play pickup basketball in Dalton when Billy was young, and those were some good games, knockdown, dragouts. But those were some good memories too. But I knew his father so well, and I used to room right next to him in this camp for 30 years now, and we would tell all these Jerry Clower stories and all that. So good old people. But I didn't know Billy that well, but I knew of Billy, and I knew a lot of people that knew Billy. And then Billy recruited him when he was at Louisiana.
Right.
And so, and Billy didn't come through himself. He had other recruiters came through, and then we went and saw him play at Georgia Southern when Louisiana came up and played Georgia Southern. I spoke to Billy, and we had a long conversation, and then and that's pretty much it. But we had some text and short phone calls, and then after this tells you a little bit about Billy Napier, which I think the Napier family is just one of the nicest, good people in this world that I've ever known. His dad was just salt of the earth, good people. After the Louisville game last year, I got texts from a lot of people and just saying how proud they were of Tate. And Billy Napier was one of them, wrote a long text to me and told me how proud he was and for him to step up in the moment. And that's pretty neat. It was a pretty neat little deal. I know Kirby and Muschamp and Bobo and all those guys, and a lot of those guys sent texts as well. But I know them a lot better than I do Billy. But
Right.
That was pretty neat for Billy to do that. Listen, Florida's fine. I think they got a really good football coach and really even a better person. I can tell you this, without reservation, they hadn't talked about Jesus in Florida in a long time, but Billy Napier's talking about it. So he's a good person, and he'll get it turned around down there.
And then I wanted just your experience as a coach. I mean, because you have the personal relationship, obviously, with Tate being his dad, but like as a coach, you've had, I'm sure, tons of years where you had teams that had certain situations, but injuries happen. What's the key to dealing with that? I mean, it seems like in a lot of cases, it brings guys closer together, and you see guys raise their level. What are some of the things that you'll look to see from Florida State coming back after Jordan's injury?
Well, I can tell you this: the other night, I don't care if it was North Alabama or Alabama, we're behind in the first quarter. We look like we're sleepwalking on both sides of the football. And that happens to Jordan now. Nobody wanted it to happen to Jordan. But I'm going to tell you, the whole team rallied after that.
Yeah.
And we've seen it time and time again ever since I've been watching football, where you have a teammate gets hurt or a teammate has cancer or teammates or one of the coaches is having health issues or other issues, and the team seems to rally behind that. That's exactly what happened the other night. And we certainly all hate Jordan to be the guinea pig right there for that, I guess. But I've seen it over and over again. But the best thing you can do as a coach is you better have two deep ready.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as dealing with it, a team with great culture, which I think Norvell is, as much as anybody at that level, I think, has really invested and promoted and built great culture at Florida State. And when you have good people and good players and you have backups every position, you can overcome these things and they'll rally for each other. And I think that's what Florida State's done. And I hope it continues, because we're certainly all going to need it for the next 2 weeks. And then, anything after that will be determined by these next 2 weeks. But I think having great culture, having good backups at each position, and then having a tragedy like happened Saturday night, I think just brings them all together.
And then last thing, so you will you be in the swamp? Will you be able to get down there?
Oh yeah, certainly.
Okay, all right.
One thing I'll tell you about Florida, I don't know if it's changed with Billy. They have the best visiting parent seats of anybody we play. We sat right on the 50-yard line last time, so I hope they got the same, because we had good seats last time we were there. So yeah, we'll be there with my immediate family, my daughter and oldest son and my wife will be down there.
The last thing for real though, because I meant to ask you this earlier. So Coach Tokars takes over as quarterbacks coach the last couple of years. What has that been like for Tate as well, for Tate and Jordan? Because it seems like he's done a good job. A lot of people didn't know who Tony Tokars was when he got that job, elevated from an analyst. How has he done for Tate?
Well, first, listen, Kenny was the first one I knew, first text, first phone call, and it ended up getting us at Florida State with Coach Norvell and our relationship when he was at Memphis. But I think Kenny was so involved in the offense and the calling of the offense and sharing that responsibility with Coach Norvell. I think just having a guy like Tony that's focused just on those 5 or 6 guys in that room has made all the difference in the world. In Jordan, it's made all the difference in the world in Tate and every one of the other quarterbacks. I mean, you can just see the difference. And I think Kenny did a great job. But when Kenny left and Norvell focused on the offense and, Tokars just had to focus on those 5 guys in that room, it made a tremendous difference in my son and Jordan and the other quarterbacks. So, I mean, that's been that relationship and that change that happened with Kenny leaving was actually turned out to be a really good thing, probably for Kenny and for Florida State.
Right. Awesome. All right, Coach. Well, listen, man, I really appreciate your time. Thanks a lot. And again, we all wish it was under different circumstances, but I think it's great to see Tate get this opportunity. And I know you guys are grateful and excited. And the fan base, I think the fan base is going to rally behind Tate too. So it should be an exciting time.
Well, tell Aslan and Corey to be nice, because I listen to them every morning on the way to work.
That's not possible.
No,
hopefully.
I really enjoy that. It's about 30-minute drive to work every morning. And just tell Corey and Aslan, I appreciate all the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so I'm going to keep on doing what they're doing, because they do a great job. And I continue to listen to them. So it's a lot of fun.
All right, Coach. Well, listen, man, I appreciate it. And we'll talk again soon. Hopefully we'll have good things to talk about here in the near future.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Ira.
Take care.